Hi all and Happy New Year! Today I am going to be teaching you how to plant paperwhites. Paperwhites are great, amazing plants. They are easy to grow indoors, which can help you brighten up your environment a little bit and add some really beautiful smelling plants to the indoors during a season where, as you can see outside, not much is going on. It's a gray season. So let's figure out what we need to plant paperwhite bulbs. You will first need your bulbs. Paperwhites really like to be planted in clusters. So if you have multiple bulbs, don't just do one bulb in one pot and one bulb in another. You want to have these all together. So this is our bulb. We also want a jar. You can do this in a wide variety of jars. They just need to be wide enough at the top to fit your bulbs. And a lot of people like clear because we will be using rocks or gravel or glass beads. And this is all because the paperwhites, as a bulb, they don't like to be in water. They don't like to be in excess moisture because that can rot this bulb and cause it to die. So if we put rocks at the bottom and the bulbs on the top, our bulbs will be able to say, ooh, the water's down there. We'll send our roots down into the beads or the rocks, whatever we have for that substrate, but the water won't necessarily touch the bulb. It will only touch the roots, which is what is bringing the water up in the first place. We'll talk a little bit about watering techniques for our paperwhites, but now let's get started actually creating our little centerpiece here. All right, in our jar, make sure that you fill your clean jar with at least 1 inch high of your glass or your rocks. So I have some cool rocks that I have found at various beaches, or they're like pretty polished rocks, or even little terrarium pebbles that you can buy at the store. You've got a whole variety of things that you can use. Make sure that they are filled up. Mine is going to be multicolored because I have both the red and the brown stones as well as blue beads. So fill it up. And see that this is an inch. That I have filled it a little over an inch. So I could take some beads out or keep them in. But we always want to make sure that there is space for our bulbs to go in the top and space for the bulbs to sit far enough above where the water line is going to be. Then all you need to do is kind of place your bulbs inside in whatever arrangement you like. You can already see that they're starting to sprout, they're starting to grow. This one's already leaning a little bit, so I'm gonna tilt him just a smidgen. Hopefully he'll start leaning back the other way once he's given some good light. And now I'm going to add my water. So we take our watering can, and without pouring it directly on top of the bulb, you don't want to pour here and then have it go all the way down and sit on top of the bulb. I'm gonna pour kind of in the middle where there's like a little hole, and it'll be easier to see without this, but the water doesn't actually come up to touch the bulb, just touching the roots, and that's all we want because we don't want to rot our paperwhites. Now let's talk about watering techniques to have good growth, sustained growth, healthy growth, and even short growth. Now our little paperwhites here, they will send their roots down to the water. They can sense where water is located and reach for it. So that's okay that they're going to be sending their roots down in between the pebbles and the rocks. But later on, paperwhites are known for getting pretty tall in comparison to their very skinny little bodies. That can cause a lot of leaning from one side to the other, and it can get pretty annoying. Also, it can break your plant if it leans too far over and now the stem completely breaks. We don't want this to happen. You can either stake your plant by adding a dowel rod or a plant stake to the center and then kind of attaching them with twisty ties or with lightly bound string. But another thing that we can do is actually give it some alcohol, which seems like a strange concept, but alcohol prevents water uptake, but not completely. Eventually, when these get a little bit taller, when they're green shoots, this green portion that I can see gets to be a smidgen taller, about 2 inches. Now I'll be able to add 5% alcohol to my water mixture. I can add rum, tequila, vodka, any clear alcohol, and that will prevent so much water uptake that your plant shoots up. The plant will grow slowly. However, it doesn't prevent complete water unabsorption. So the plant's still going to get its water that it needs to produce bright, vibrant, large blooms while staying a little smaller. For a plant outside, we don't want to do this. For a plant inside, though, it can make things a lot easier. You always want to make sure that when your water level gets too low and the roots are no longer in the water, that you add a little bit more. Remember, never exceeding so that you're watering up to the bulb. Paperwhites love the winter. That's why they are a common winter, Christmas, New Year's plant. They like that cold weather. So if you like to crank that heat up in your house, try to put your paperwhites in a spot where maybe there's some lower temperatures. But one way to deal with this, because they also like light, is putting it near a window. Windows are always a little bit colder as there are drafts, or the glass just stays colder longer than a wall does. So putting it on a windowsill might be a great spot for it. But be sure to check the temperature to make sure it's not too cold and your plant will freeze, and it's not too hot and you're going to bake your plant. Also, keep in mind that these are fragrant flowers. If you have any sort of sensory issue, you don't like the smell, as many people don't actually like the smell of paperwhites, that you put it in a place where either the person who is around the paperwhites loves the smell, I do, or put it in a spot that might have a draft or a window or some sort of ventilation so that the smell isn't overpowering. This scent is caused by indole, which actually is what makes lilacs and paperwhites so pungent, but it's also a molecule that is produced during the decomposition process of organic matter. So a dying animal, a dead plant, they both produce indole. So when you smell something dead, you're like, oh, there's a weird sweetness to it. That's what we're smelling. But in a plant like a lilac, or in this case our paperwhites, we're only getting that sweetness. But for some people, it can be a little overpowering. So keep that in mind when you position your beautiful bulbs. With that, I hope that you enjoyed learning more about paperwhites and how to plant them and care for them throughout the late winter season and brighten your home, brighten your environment, and bring the green inside this holiday season. Subscribe here to stay tuned for more videos all about the natural world and how to create a greener environment for yourself and for wildlife.